Hey, it's that guy Cardboard. So I got a video for you. I'm calling it the cards you probably didn't know about. So these are cards even the most seasoned sports card collectors probably don't know exist, and they range from modern to vintage to very vintage cards. Starting off with some modern. Now, I'm sure most people are aware of the 1990 Upper Deck Reggie Jackson autograph. This is the first pack pulled autograph card. But I think what most people aren't aware of that there's actual different variations of this autograph that are extremely scarce, like this Mr. October insignia. Now, these Mr. Octobers were only signed when the serial numbers are end in 00, and with a base print run of 2,500, that leaves just 25 inscriptions. So just 25 examples of this back in 1990. I mean, talk about scarce. Just to note, there's actually some fake Mr. October signed autographs that don't end in 00. But if you look at the original Upper Deck promotion of this product, they mention it has to end on 00. So most likely the ones that aren't ending on 00 were aftermarket cards that were signed Mr. October or after they were pack pulled. This is an extremely scarce card. I've hunted for this forever on eBay and online auction houses. I've never seen it pop up for auction, at least. But this next variation is something I had never heard of until recently, and this is truly a groundbreaking variation, and it's actually the first true one of one in the hobby. So every time there was a serial number that corresponded with a player that had reached a career home run milestone, Reggie Jackson would sign it with that corresponding player. So for 714, he signed it Babe Ruth, which that was the amount of home runs that Babe Ruth had for his career. Actually, that Babe Ruth card was only discovered a couple years ago. Collectors have also discovered two other variations. There's a Willie Mays one that you see on the left that was signed for the 660 serial numbering, and then there's also been a Harmon Killebrew one discovered, pictured on the right. So it's assumed that Reggie Jackson probably had signed some more cards that correspond with these 500 home run club members and their career home run milestones. And it's fascinating to me because this is truly the first one of one in the hobby. So this insert set is groundbreaking for two reasons: for having the first pack pulled autographs and for having the first one of ones. And you just don't even see these ever pop up. I mean, I don't think most people have even heard of this variation. And now going back in time, so this is a really cool era card that goes unnoticed even in very seasoned, sophisticated T206 circles. And it's the Tinker Hands on Knees Chicago shirt variation. So most Tinker Hands on Knees cards just have Cubs on the front of his jersey. But this rare variation, you can actually see Chicago spelled behind the Cubs. And this unusual printing has all the more significance when one considers that there's a proof version of the T206 front Schulte card that exists with Chicago across the jersey rather than the Cubs, which you can see on the two on the left. And if you look on the two cards on the right, the Tinker cards, the far right one is just the typical one you see. It's just clean Cubs on the jersey, whereas the very rare one, the one on the left, you can see Chicago is still on his jersey. There's really just actually three variations of this card. And the first two, version 1 and version 2, can only be found on the Sweet Pearl 150 Factory 30 backs. And the version 1 is literally only found on that variation. And then the version 2, find a card that's a Sweet Pearl 150 Factory 30 back. Most likely you'll see the version 2 of it, where you see a little bit of that Chicago still kind of coming through just a tiny bit. And if it's not a Sweet Pearl 150 Factory 30 back, then it's almost certainly a version 3 where it's just a very clean Cubs. The Chicago part has been fully scrubbed out of that card, which is interesting because it was very much corrected the same way that the Doyle card and the Maggie card was corrected, or even more similarly to the 89 Fleer Billy Ripken FF era, where there's many different versions of that card until they finally got it right and fully removed the obscenity on his bat. And in my opinion, this could be a case for the 525th card in the set. I mean, there's printing variations of, say, Sweeney, No B, the Snodgrass, which these are all printing anomalies that occurred during the printing. It's an accidental flaw to the printing plates. But the difference between that and those ones I just mentioned, the Tinker card, very much like the Doyle New York National or the Maggie, was an unintended mistake that was actually quickly discovered and corrected. And if this is accepted as the variation, then it's the rarest card in the T206 set, rarer than the Doyle, as only three are known to exist, and these are the three that exist. So if a third party company, grading company, ever listed it as an actual variation, I think these cards would sell for big money. I mean, they still go for a lot. Last one sold in 2016. This PSA 2.5 sold for $22,000. Then the SGC 1.5 sold for $18,000 in 2012. But yeah, this is a card I don't think a lot of T206 collectors know about, and I've been tracking them on eBay, and I've never seen this variation pop up. It's just extremely scarce. And then going even further back in time to the 1800s, it's the 1887 N172 Old Judge Obscene Gesture. This comes from Charles Haas Radbourne. If you look closely, he is flicking off the camera. He's holding his hand on his belt, giving the bird. I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, maybe he's just kind of positioning his fingers on his belt and just having to catch his middle finger out, or maybe he's trying to balance himself. But this was not an isolated incident. He's also credited as having the very first person to be photographed giving the middle finger, and this photo was taken in 1886 during a Boston team photo. So this photo was taken a year before the Old Judge card. He's certainly not new to giving the middle bird. And a fun fact too about Old House Radburn is the term Charlie horse was actually named after him. So his name is Charles, and he got the nickname Hoss, which actually means workhorse because he was such a workhorse on the mound, pitching a lot of innings. And he was known for having muscle cramps, so that became known as Charlie Horse. This is a really rare card. Old Judges in general are rare, but to find a specific pose is extremely rare. And Haas has a few poses in the set. And this card, this exact one, the SGC7, sold for nearly $31,000 in 2020. And actually, there's another player in the Old Judge set that's also flaking off the camera, and it's Harry Stovey. He did this in 1888, so a year after Haas did. And many believe that Harry Stovey could actually be in the Hall of Fame. And this card's also extremely rare as well. And speaking of hand gestures, this is sort of a bonus. Did you know that the high five has only been around since 1977? So the first high five is actually credited to Los Angeles Dodgers players Glenn Burke and Dusty Baker. And they did this during a game in 1977. Baker, seeing Burke's raised hand as he's going around the base, reached up and slapped it, marking the first time that there's ever been like a documented high five. And this is the picture of it in the middle. And then Burke later became an icon in the gay community after he came out. And this high five became a symbol of gay pride around San Francisco. So what I have pictured here is Glenn Burke's rookie card on the left and Dusty Baker's rookie card on the right. And speaking of high fives, please give me a high five, a like, and subscribe. Take some time to put these videos together and do the research. But appreciate you. Later.